2024 Super Day. Thank you. And this is Capital Program Committee, Thursday, December 12th, 2024. We're at 2 p.m. instead of 3. They call to order and roll call. I'm Jill Veith. We've got Don Holgate, just say here, Howard Matz, Christy, and John Kitchener.
Here.
And for staff purposes, we have Sue. From the Finance Committee, we have the head of our finance department, the esteemed Brian Turbin. And from the airport, we have Art Casparo, Noah Carberg, and Maria Michelle. Am I missing anybody?
Preston Harriman is with us as well.
Oh, Preston, you aren't visual, but we know you're here. Thank you. This meeting is being audio video recorded. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
And on your, can I get a second?
Second. Howard.
Don?
Aye.
Christy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jill? Aye. Thanks. And now we gotta move to public comment. Do we have any public comment? I'm going to close public comment. So first up is the airport housing. What I want to do is see if they want to make. I'm hoping limited comments, not, you can say what you want, but we have talked a lot about things and really you've changed numbers, so. You know, we are trying to wrap it up for your benefit and for ours, but. Why don't Art or Noah or Maria or Preston, whoever's gonna talk, why don't you guys, if you have something, or if you just wanna say you wanna take questions, we can do it that way. And after that, guys, then we're gonna go through the Rorys that did not make the cut and just vote on them. That's how Stephen did in the past, and that's what they want me to do at this time, so we can talk about changing that in the future. Okay.
So, Arthur, I'll defer to you, but I did write and through Sue distribute an updated document. I can be brief and I can start there, but I'd be happy to defer to you as well.
And also.
At your discretion, Madam Chair.
Sorry, do you want to put up their. What they emailed around with their updated numbers? I don't know if you can do that on the screen, but that might help. Anybody here who might not be able to see it.
If you give me 1 minute, I didn't have that handy to go.
Okay. So, while Sue's bringing that up, but my Madam Chair, a very brief story. So I have 2 employees who have just lost their housing. You know, one has 2 children, one has 1 child. The former has been with the airport for 20 years. He's since moved his wife and child to Hyannis. He's commuting and couch surfing, trying to find something. Another employee doesn't have the same length of stay with the airport, but he has, I think, until Friday. The house has been sold out from under him. I want to credit the housing office for their work. We thought we had him placed in a Richmond Great Point apartment, but as an airport employee, he's not eligible for this. He's not a town employee. That would be considered a sublease under the terms of that agreement. So we're working with the housing department as best as we can to try to relocate him. But for me, it really begs the question, who's going to take care of airport employees if not the airport? We can't house them in these other opportunities available to town employees. We really are in a position of having to develop our own. That's really underlined. I apologize, I couldn't make the previous meeting. I know the chair and staff were present and they advised me accordingly. But what we tried to do was really cut everything that we felt we could cut to submit to you a revised borrowing authorization request. We're below $5 million. We've included an itemized bid tab for all of the sort of trade and component items that come through with modular construction. So we're trying to provide you not only with all of the information available, but we're trying to revise our numbers to reflect the same cost basis that was presented to you by the housing office. You know, I understand your role is to review all of the projects coming forward to the town. make sure that our recommendation for a borrowing authorization is well justified, that one project looks as much like another project as it can, that there aren't any extravagant or extraneous expenses, and I hope that we've provided that. And those are really all of the comments I have. I don't know if my chair would like to add onto that. Thank you.
That's helpful. Thanks, Noah. Art?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. I heard Mr. Kitchen's comments at the beginning. I just wanted to follow up from the last meeting, Mr. Matz requested line item details, so we sort of dropped other things, jumped on that. Really tried to refine this down. We've lowered the request. Provided you with that information, again, not to be repetitive from the other meetings, but this is essentially still going to go out through public procurement. If we come in underneath, if we were to be over the appropriation, it would be very difficult to then proceed with the contracts. So yes, these numbers are likely a little bit high from exactly what we anticipate, but I think that we've refined them down to hopefully be more realistic and palatable to you. We desperately, I don't want to say desperate, we really need to move forward with the housing, and we really would appreciate this committee's support. The people that we're putting in this, our airport employees are also members of this community. And I know that this committee is hopeful that there could be additional housing for first responders and other folks. This is providing 2 units that will be used by people that work at the airport who are members of the community. And I'd really, really like to be able to continue on with the housing production for airport employees, and would appreciate your support and do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for attending all the meetings and for all your information and for reworking it. I'm gonna be honest with both of you right now that I wish you'd reworked it a long time ago. Like, I feel a little jammed, and so that was kind of disappointing because I think we raised these concerns a long time ago. But I appreciate you taking a look at it. I have a question, unless you guys want to ask questions.
No, go ahead. I'll have.
Which is, it sounds like you kind of know, do you know who's gonna live in here? That's what Noah was sort of implying. That's kind of who he was thinking about. So these are kind of designed for these specific people in mind, is that the idea? Or
I
those are
wouldn't
just
say-
examples?
I wouldn't say that. We happen to have 2 employees who, I'll be lucky if they're still with us in 18 months and available to take occupancy of this. But no, they're not designed for any 2 specific employees.
Okay. And who reviewed these numbers with you, I guess?
I took them to our architect and I took them to our OPM.
The OPM for the dorm?
Correct.
And, I think that's it for me. Do you have any questions? Howard? John, do you have any specific questions before you wanna?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And then the other thing is just in the list, which Sue, could you put up the spreadsheet that they sent?
I don't know why this isn't, is this the wrong letter? Hold on.
The one I have is from the 10th of December. I think what you have was from the 1st. And I think it's probably just me and I'm missing this, but I don't see anything in here on the, like, what is, oh, on the design, you just have that, the first one. Oh, that's different. Why did mine say 150 before? Huh. Nothing changed. Okay,
Which
I see
two?
it. The first line says design, and then the one I saw earlier there, it was 50 and then 150, and I think I was looking at the other one too. So, okay,
This should be the correct one. Oops, here it comes. This,
we can't see it very well, I think I can.
better?
It's better, can you see that, Christy?
I mean, I got a copy here.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the right one though,
Yeah,
I just wanna
yeah,
make sure.
Yeah, I think so, yeah,
About that.
yeah.
Okay. If there are no questions, then, John, I know you wanted to make some comments. So-
Yeah, it would be helpful, Madam Chair, if we could put Howard's report up and go to that section, so we have it, we can have it in front of us as I speak. And for Christy
Well,
and
wait a
Dawn,
minute, because I don't know that everybody has seen that yet. Have you read the notes from Howard?
I just read over it.
No, I didn't. Where is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
Howard just did
Not
draft
in
notes
full
about what's gonna
detail.
go in the report, so
Oh,
I'd rather not do that, cause not everyone has had a chance to see it on the
Who's that?
committee yet.
Susan?
so
Yeah, and she just sent it at like 12:45.
okay, it would just make it easier. So, Howard's been obviously pretty busy with all this stuff, and he asked me if I would lead the conversation on the airport housing, and it is all laid out very clearly in his report. So, the first point that Howard makes, and it's obviously true, that we spent an incredible amount of time, on this one request, and really gave it a lot of airtime. So anything in the report has for sure been well discussed. So the first thing is that the initial request from the airport was for $6 million to construct 2 duplex units with a maximum of 6 bedrooms. That's $1 million per bedroom. And yes, the airport have just this week revisited that cost and brought it down to $4.95 million, which comes down to $825,000 per bedroom. And we're using bedrooms because that is the best common denominator, whether they're a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, but the amount of bedrooms is probably the best benchmark. We found ourselves at the same time as we were looking at this request, we saw the Waits Drive application that Christy went through for us. And that is, you could say, well, the costs of that are not yet well developed, but it's about at the same kind of level of detail as the airport. The fact is, the Waits Drive project is about $492,000 per bedroom. So, it's heading for, the airport cost per bedroom is headed for almost double what's in the Waits Drive project. So the first recommendation is that the airport, and I'm going to read it, the committee recommends that the airport consider benchmarking its housing costs with other affordable housing being developed on the island and the Waits Drive project. We also believe that the town should institute a comprehensive approach to housing development that incorporates a reusable template for design that can reduce both development costs and construction costs among the various public constituencies developing housing. And I think that's one of the side benefits that has come out of the amount of time we put into this, is to kind of understand that there does need to be a little more synchronization or coordination with this. So that's the first. I'll come to the second piece, but Howard, do you want to add anything to that first recommendation, and then maybe we should discuss that and then go on to the second piece?
Well, I think that the horses left the barn for this particular project, but I just never understood why all of the constituents in this community are not coordinating their design efforts to come up with some sort of standardized, adjustable program that can be dropped into various sites for various staff, for various levels of staff members. And I think that would then allow us to spec out what would be the right price or the right quality of housing or the right amenities for that housing for that particular characterization rank of that person in the corporate structure. So I just don't understand how we keep having designs being made for different buildings, for different sites. I do, as an architect, understand that every site is different. And that needs to be taken into account. But the disparity in housing costs should not exist on this island.
I can only say, Madam Chair, I agree with that. And, I've personally seen, with modular homes, it is not too difficult to make the same basic units look very different. So it's not like we're all of a sudden going to see, the same square box all over the island. That does not need to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's not up to the airport to come up with that template either, so I think it's a good idea, and I just want to make that caveat, like, I think the airports, what they're doing is trying to operate, to meet their needs and I understand that, and so I don't expect them to come up with that, but I think you're raising a good point, and it's something that maybe we should, maybe Brian could help talk to us about that at some point. Maybe that's something he's working on, I don't know.
Did John have a second point? Was there something?
Yeah, but to finish on that first one, I'm sorry. So the sort of the recommendation, not sort of the recommendation that we have in the report is that we should not adjust our ratings to have this airport proposal go forward.
Well, we have to still vote on it, John, so.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So then the second part of this, and I'm going to read a little bit of it. If you go back, I think 1 year, the original development for the Nobodea Farm Road property that we're discussing now to have 2 units on it included a total of 12 buildings that would house a variety of unit types and bedroom counts. The first and second phases of the project, as they're currently planned, is only for 3 buildings. And yet what we saw in the beginning was 12 buildings. Given that the critical need for first responders that support the airport as they do the town, but support the airport, they have the same critical situation that Mr. Gasparo was talking about, for the airport employees. But these are first responders, and they have as critical, if not more of a critical situation. And, I think we need to try harder to somehow use that total area to put up more housing that is dedicated to firefighters and police officers. And excuse me. And that's something we could look at over the next year. Sorry, Howard, could you take over? I gotta get some water.
Well, I don't think that, you know, I wanted to say that the airport has a need for housing. And,
Yeah.
you know, I applaud you guys for stepping up and taking responsibility, being airport guys and doing a housing project. I mean, that needs to be acknowledged. And I saw a really great scheme last year for a lot of housing, and you justified the infrastructure costs that we approved because it was going to support this entire development. And I think that we need to continue to be thinking about that so that we can get back our return on that huge amount of investment in the infrastructure.
I think that's a really good point. I know for me, that's one of the reasons I thought we should move forward last year with, because the sewer was so expensive.
Right.
That dorm is expensive, and I don't think, and Brian, maybe you can weigh in, do we even know what that's gonna come in at the end? I mean.
For what? Which
The
project, Madam
dorm,
Chair?
phase one, the dorm at the airport. I mean, they're in the middle of it, so.
I
don't-
don't have any indications from anybody that it's not gonna come in on budget at this point.
Okay. That's
I
good
do
to-
want to make one observation though,
Yes, please.
because I know this continues to come up, okay, and I understand this desire to put town housing in this development or housing for first responders, okay? But we've got to separate the two of them, because the fact is that even if we could put housing there, the town would have to pay for the land that it's using to the airport, because that's all airport property. And as I mentioned before, we went through this with trying to site the DPW at the Delta Fields. It was going to cost $330,000 a year to site the DPW facility at the Delta Fields. The airport, we just can't build housing there, and the airport can't build it for us. The town would have to be the ones to finance and construct it, and we would have to pay to lease the land that we're constructing on. So I think that we've got to separate these two issues and really focus on the airport figuring out their housing needs and the town figuring out theirs, because they have a very different set of circumstances and rules that they operate under. And I think we're conflating, while we all work together, all of that land is all under grant assurances, and we can't just simply decide to put housing there because we think there's a need for first responders, which I don't dispute the need for first responders and all town employees as a whole. But we've got to be careful about interjecting this issue with first responders into an analysis of an airport housing project, because they're two distinctly different issues, to be honest with you. And I know that we want to, but I don't think the committee should be looking at the inability at this very moment to be able to do it, and the hurdles and the challenges that would make it almost impossible, if not completely impossible, to accomplish anyway. I remember when we started down this road, and the former airport manager was very clear that the FAA gave us the permission to build this housing for the airport, because they recognized the need for airport employees, and that was as far as they were going to go, and that they had never done this before. And to want to try to alter that, to me, is not a risk that I think the town should be taking in terms of whether the FAA would continue to let us do something that they have not typically, if ever, done. And Noah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when Tom said that we had gotten this permission, this was the only time the FAA had ever granted this.
I think Alaska or something too, right? One other place. Not many.
I'll agree with Brian. There's very specific set-asides for Alaska and Hawaii only in FAA policy. And that details, it's based off of their respective remoteness.
Yeah. Brian, I understand what you're saying, but I also understand that, time has moved on a little bit. And I think instead of just quoting what the FAA said, I think we should try to look at putting our case to them about first responders on this island. And I think it would be worth another shot at that.
But, okay, so, but here's the issue still remains. Even if they were to let us build it, we would have to lease the land that that building is on from the airport. And I don't see a rational reason why the town would build housing on airport property and have to lease the land from underneath it from the airport. And that's what would have to happen in those scenarios. Because again, we wanted to site the DPW facility at Delta Fields, and we have to pay fair market rent for the land within the confines of the airport layout. So that would be counterproductive in my mind.
Brian, do you
I-
have the ability to amend or to revisit the mandate that the airport as an enterprise has, which probably reflects the services and role that they have to play? It probably is the recipe. And to expand it so that, since it's an enterprise fund and the net proceeds of an enterprise fund go to the town ostensibly, that the airport potentially builds the housing and leases it to the town. You know, I think that we need to be a little bit creative about how to do this in the context of that this island is particularly unique, not similar to Alaska or Hawaii, but it has its own uniqueness and it needs to be pursued and leveraged off of. But that's not the primary.
But again,
issue.
that would make no sense to have the airport build it in the town, lease it, when would be just as easy for us to build the housing ourselves, right?
Brian.
Because it's gonna be a fair market lease that you're gonna have to pay, so it would be, again, it's counterintuitive to lease land from yourself.
Yeah,
when we could
Brian,
build the
where
housing
this
ourselves.
started is, I feel a little bit personally misled last year. By the request that was made for a property to be developed with 12 buildings on it. And the 12 buildings were supported by some very expensive infrastructure that maybe we're never gonna use.
Art, I see that your hand's up. Go
Thank you.
ahead.
Certainly, there was never any intention to mislead anybody. And if you didn't understand or misunderstood that, you know, that's very different than being misled. And I certainly actually take offense to that. And further, you know, we're talking about, there was a request from your committee that we showed all the potential development. And then when we first came in, it was with just the two. And as I think I explained last time, there's also with endangered species, the project segmentation concerns. So you got to show everything that you might do. We were never coming in, nor did we propose funding or request funding to be able to build 12 houses. But we're trying to do smart development that allows for you know, we're looking a lot into the future so that if there is going to be further, you know, needs, then we would be able to, we're building our way in. That plan was not in any way meant to mislead you that we were somehow building 12 houses. It was what might be able to be built there. And of course, it only makes sense. We're not going to put in a 4-inch sewer line if in the future you might at some point be able to have, you know, 12 houses in there or whatever it might be. That's a long-term plan, which I think is proper and good planning. And I hope you understand that. And I think, you know, we're going around and around. Brian's point is spot on. I've been involved for quite a while here with Tom Rafter as well in these discussions with council. We're not going to be able to just do what I think you're hoping that we can do. And then right now, today, we're before you with a request for a single townhouse that we want to move forward on. And all these other things and I'm telling you, my next plan to come back in the future is not on this property, but for a manager's house on the other property once we can get the seasonal employees out of there. You know, so we are working on this, but it's not like the airport has the money to come in and build 12 houses anyway. So all of these things, like, we just take it back to the project that's before you, which is this single townhouse. Thank you.
Christie,
I have no idea how I'm gonna form my comment. So. I just-
everyone's being quite direct.
Yeah,
So
no,
if
it's
you want
good.
to just go for it,
No,
I'd
it's,
say go for it.
I'm gonna support this. I think that, I'm looking at, you know, Howard's letter. I'm trying to read and listen, and it's a little tricky, but Um. My reason for saying yes, I first of all want to applaud the committee for pushing the airport committee to come back with a redesign, which they've done. I should say a refinance, which is, you know, at the 11th hour, they have it. So I appreciate the nudge from the committee to do that. Some of the reasons that have come up on why we're not gonna do this, or why we wouldn't, would be, we need to coordinate with town on better housing policy, so that it's sort of across the board. And we need to consider first responders. Both of those are gonna hold up this housing project. And at this point, for the amount that we're spending, which is a tremendous amount, we are giving the airport in perpetuity housing needs. You know, we've all driven past the site. It's in progress. You know, just from my personal opinion, I don't want to hold it up. You know, and I just think that I agree with a benchmark to some extent.
You know, Christie, just let me just
Yeah, yeah.
clarify two things. One,
Yeah.
I don't want to be on the hot seat for this. I
Yeah.
wrote my opinion.
No, this is
Just put it in
on
front of
behalf
the
of the
group,
committee.
so the committee could amend it and do what they want with it.
Yeah.
So that's first thing.
No,
The
I'm
sec-
not,
The second thing is,
Yeah.
those are prospective recommendations.
okay, I'm just saying,
Not current recommendations.
correct, but we are using them as discussion points.
Yeah, but they're for the future. We need to do
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. So I'm using that as, I'm just
Yeah.
commenting on those
I
discussion
don't think it
points.
would
I'm
hold
not,
anything up.
not holding anything
Yeah.
to it. I do think they would hold things up, but, we've been at this for a long time. This committee has put in a lot of time. The airport has put in a lot of time. We're looking at a number that is beyond what the town is doing. With that said, I'm willing at this point for the purpose of housing in the airport to get their project done, to approve it. And I really don't want to be talking about this next year. But with that said, you know, hoping that, and I think the airport's done a lot of work, but I also, they certainly better understand how the committee works and the kind of information the committee wants to see. And I think that whatever came through last year, was changing a little bit. And so there was, you know, skepticism on the project, but you know, at this point, I'm willing to approve it and make it happen. You know, with any project, construction project particularly, it's gonna go up in cost. So, and I'm not as stuck behind the first responder, notion. I think that we have a lot of housing projects in the works that I'm confident we're gonna be okay there, but I, you know, we always gotta work at it, but, you know, it's part of my always wanting to be sort of a proponent of housing. That's where I'm at. That's just some commentary. I might be going against the grain when it comes to the fiscal responsibility, but, considering you know, considering it, I'm willing to, forego that and approve it.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Christie. Anybody else have any other comments?
I'm willing to support it. I think that they are trying to be as responsible as they can with with the dollars to get this done. They need the housing. It's not getting any cheaper. We keep having to give more money to all of these other housing projects because they just literally can't get them done. And the longer we wait, the harder it's going to be. And I do agree with Art that putting infrastructure in when you're doing it is more economical in the long run, even though you might not realize the benefits of it for many years. I mean, most sewer projects put T's in front of all the houses that can potentially connect.
Okay.
Supported at this point.
All right. Howard, anything else?
No, I just wanted to repeat, I respect what you have to say. I just don't, I don't know what else to do other than to. I mean, the numbers just don't make sense, but the need makes sense. So your passion
Yeah.
is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the wrong thing to do. It's just frustrating to have to do it in these
Yeah,
circumstances.
so we have to understand with housing in Nantucket, the numbers are not always going to be exactly what you want them to be. Particularly with housing, I think. That's my sort of perspective on it. It is fully in flux. You know. I sort of weigh that in a little bit, but it's. Yeah, so. It's not. I just don't see it. I don't see it always matching up. Housing is just such a crazy issue that. But I like to support housing because I know what the need is.
Yeah.
And I might forego a little bit of financial component, but, I do know the airport is, well suited to pay for it also, and that sort of rang with me a little bit. With that said, in the end, I think you guys did a phenomenal job. I was really not involved in it as much as you guys were, but, having them revisit the number. And that is a testament to the discussion. So I do appreciate that. So I'm still on your side.
Well, and the concept of losing employees is not a good thing.
Yeah.
John, did you want to comment?
There's a lot of costs there.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I continue to not support this. I think the numbers are just too far away from what currently we are paying or expect to pay for affordable housing. It is good to see it come down a bit, but it is still almost double what we are building a very good affordable housing development for in town. So I will, when we come to a vote, I still do not support this. Thank you.
Okay. Noah, do you all have any comments back about the price?
I would only say, I don't want to beat the dead horse, it's going to go out to procurement. We're going to do it as efficiently as possible. I take the airport money very seriously. I see it as whether it's taxpayer or generated by, customers through the charge rates and charges, it's still public money. I take that responsibility very seriously. I'm going to be, out of respect, I appreciate this process and the adjustments you've helped us to make, and I think that we've worked collaboratively, that the process has worked. And I hope now at the end of the day, we could get there. The project ultimately is going to cost what it costs when it goes out to bid. These are really just, estimates. I think that we're still somewhat not apples to apples when we're looking at the costs compared to the, what the, housing office numbers you're using, but I don't think we should head back down there again. I know how much time you spent on this. So I'd appreciate your support very much. Thank you.
Or do you think you guys have over-designed what the buildings would include, or do you think that they're basic buildings that are kind of built appropriately, designed and spec'd appropriately for what they're being intended to be used for?
Go ahead, Art.
Through you, Madam Chair. That's the point, that these buildings aren't actually designed at this point, but our intention is there's a balance, I think, that needs to be struck. They're only for the intended use and to serve the purpose. But there are also municipal buildings that have to withstand rental use by these employees and turnover, and I think have a longer service life than perhaps a regular residential building. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna recommend that that Sue brings up our list of what so far has not made it into the hopper. I want to take a break from the airport if you don't mind. And I want to go back to what it is that we're supposed to be here for, which wasn't to have, you know,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
quite so late.
Right.
And I cannot emphasize that enough. We have a lot of spending that's been proposed this year and, you know, our own home is a huge project and we didn't spend 1/10 of the time on that. That we did this. So I'd like to go
I know.
through and for the projects that we know that we did not meet the ranking requirement. And I want to pull them up and vote on them. So the first one. Do you want me to read you the number? You just want to see it on the screen?
I can't read that back.
For John, since you're online, the number is HMP 22005.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah,
And the dredge plan implementation. Does anyone have any comments on this? Otherwise, we'll just go to,
I do,
okay.
if I don't. I'm
Yeah,
just-
you were gonna look at.
Yeah, I did.
Thank
I
you.
met with them, we discussed it, and I just wanna. There's a few of these I might recommend pulling out.
Okay.
I was enlightened by by Jeff and staff, I met with them. As far as this particular one, the dredge plan. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You know, I've been doing town government since 2000. And I've always seen dredge plans. It's our responsibility to maintain, obviously, the channels. I know that Hither Creek in Matticat is really close to needing some action. Jeff was telling me that there was a note from the High Line that they're under a watch because they went aground recently.
Oh,
Just a little scuffle.
Yeah.
And they're already 2 years out with the implementation. You know, as I said, they have an obligation to dredge. Mobilizing the equipment is very difficult to do. So they really have to pre-plan this. They are talking about, this would be maybe the second time, they've only done it once before, but using sand for replenishment with some other projects. And they do have already funded modeling for how sediment moves underwater and need for dredging. So that is kind of a new thing that they can monitor better. But they have plans and they have permits in place. And so this is something they felt pretty strongly about as a departmental obligation.
Yep.
You know, to do, so, obviously, I'm looking at these. 3 of the 4 is what I'm looking at, hopefully trying to talk about here, but.
Do you want to just talk about this one and then? wait?
Yeah, I do, yeah. But what I'm getting at is, with all of these, I'm not thinking about the big picture as far as the finances, because I'm trying to look at these on the merits of each one individually and how they weigh in. And the sense that I got from the department on, really the need to consider doing it, so, I can never remember not approving dredging over the years I was on finance committee and this committee. So I do know it's something that the town, takes as an obligation to do.
One of the things I remember you saying is how it's better for them to do some of these things at the same time because it does that. We don't have the equipment here to do it.
Yeah,
so they-
that's part of the mobilization that takes them a long time and getting on the schedule.
Right.
Jeff's on the call if you wanted to.
Oh, good. Yeah, good. Yeah. And-
Oh, good.
Yeah, so, you know, if Jeff wanted to chime in, if there was anything I missed, or if there was any questions, he's certainly the one to ask. But we did have a good meeting about some of these.
So your recommendation would be,
My recommendation would be
Move
move it
it
into
over.
the approved. You know, the department has these projects, a lot of these are ongoing and they're in the works. Some have been delayed many years. because they don't have the gravitas of other requests. And they're looking to, you know, keep their obligations going, but also maintain what they've already invested in.
Okay. Jeff, did you want to make a comment? Christie made a very good case for you.
No, Christie did a great job. I just wanted to make one point of clarity is, he said we have permits in hand. That process is ongoing right now through the sediment dredge part and 10-year dredge plan. I know it came up, but we're about $1 million in appropriations deep in the planning and permitting process for our island-wide dredge program. And this is just kind of the first amount of money for actual physical implementation of that. So we're just looking to kind of keep that program continuing and getting a good jump start on everything. What's that plan? and
So
permitting
would
is
this
complete.
actually, this is actually going, but so this is still design and planning?
This would be
this
physical
is-
shovel in the ground, sand coming out.
Okay, so none of this is going to more design for other creeks, or this is,
No, this will be the physical work. The first $1 million was done for all of the modeling and permitting.
great, okay, thanks for clarifying that, Jeff.
No problem.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or?
No, I'm glad you looked into it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean,
You want to
No.
make a motion
I'll
to put it, somebody want to make a motion
make a motion to move it into the.
to the hopper?
Yeah.
Stephen always called it. Howard is a second on your motion, Christie.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Jill's and I. It's approved. The next one is actually an airport project. If you want the number, John, it's,
I see it.
okay, great, sorry. This stuff's getting more fine print for me as I'm. As I'm not sure that I
I
do.
think you can enlarge it, can't you, Don? Can
She,
you enlarge? that?
yeah, Sue just did.
Oh, can you make it bigger than that?
Well, then we can't see what it is. Can you make it a, yeah, I think she's trying to. Thanks, Sue. Did. On this one, did,
What's the title of it?
it's the GSE
GSE
storage
storage
facility. Christie, I felt like you kind of knew about this one as well.
Well, can I ask a question to airport staff?
Yeah.
They're still on.
Yeah,
Either Art or Noah. The GSC, the storage facility, valued at 4 million. Is this one and done? Is this all in cost? Or is this, I just can't remember. I don't have my, Rory pulled up, but just wanna ask that.
It's all in cost. It's design, construction, and I believe it does count as vertical construction, and we need an OPM as well under the state laws. But that's all in.
And what's the percent? I know you guys have the facility over on Bunker Road, that big, for the heavy equipment. Is this would be by the tank farm, by General Aviation, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And then, what percent of equipment would this hold for you guys as far as, would there still be some equipment that's outside, or is this 100%? Is it gonna cover 90% of your equipment that's outside? And I wanna make sure, are we storing anything for any of the airlines?
No, so this facility is going to be used to store the new tugs, the new GPUs, the new equipment that we are buying to manage the South Ramp as quietly as possible for our neighbors. So some of our existing tugs will go in it, but without this facility, I don't know how we're going to buy and store $250,000, $500,000 pieces of equipment to run more environmentally friendly for our neighbors.
I don't see how many square feet it is.
Let me see if I can find that number for you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, no. I see a map, but
I think it's not for the FPL, and that's a good thing. I think before we might have thought this was the FPL. Yeah, not for the FPL.
It's a lot of their GA support equipment. I mean, I don't wanna seem like I'm real easy, you know, but, I am,
We're gonna.
yeah, I know,
I-
listen, there's someone here, I don't
I've
approve,
been committing for you, with you for a while. I'm just teasing.
you know,
I hear you.
I'm just,
He's a voice of
No,
reason.
you've always talked about, like, you feel
Storage.
strongly
I do
about
feel strongly about storage.
vehicles and storage and what it does. And
Yeah, I just,
you've always been a really important advocate for
yeah, I
that.
just, like, what are we gonna, okay. No one refutes that we need it at some point.
Right.
So why would we wait till it's more expensive when the equipment's already been outside?
I think it's just because it's how it ranked. It came very close, actually.
Yeah.
It's 46.9, and,
Yeah.
you know, we had the auxiliary building last year and we supported that and it got voted down.
True, true.
So I don't know that I think we are putting forward things that are, you know, recommending, trying to protect the assets that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, I don't wanna jump the gun, I'm looking at those next two airport items. I'm not there, I'm not in support yet for the rehab. But I could support the storage facility, just because I've seen, and at the airport, when I was doing the liaison for the airport. When you walk through that garage and off of Bunker Road. And you see the age of this stuff that looks almost brand new, it's because it's inside. And it's just, to me, there's the value of having anything indoors. Outweighs most other things for me. As far as an investment
Yeah.
on equipment.
I think we've all always agreed that.
Yeah, I just, I know-
Short-sighted.
Again, I'm trying to look at this project on the merits of it. Individual merits of it, and not say, we have so much other things we're doing. I'm advising we do it. And the town will let us know what they wanna do. I feel, that it's prudent to do it, to protect the equipment that we have. But I also, you know, I wanna challenge the airport to say, you know, we really wanna hope that this stuff, we're not seeing, you know, replacement equipment. I wanna make sure that what we're doing here makes sense in the long run, is that this stuff will last 5 to 8 years longer than if it was sitting outside. So that's sort of the back end of that. I'm not just doing it to put it inside, I'm doing it for the longevity of it and for the reliability of it. You know, so that's not, you know, it's depreciating outside.
Yeah. So Noah, is it 3,200 square feet?
That's correct. It's 3,200 square feet, and I believe we've also spec'd some additional costs for charging infrastructure. The idea with GPUs now is you charge them and you have an electric provided power source instead of a GPU that burns diesel or gas. So that does include some
Okay,
electrical build out.
so it's 4.1 million for 3,200 square feet. Right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty much a steel structure and obviously,
Yeah, I mean, it's. But you're spending the money now, but you're gonna still have the building in 16 years. Like the benefit, take that 4 million, stretch that benefit out over the longevity of that building. That's the benefit you get from it. That's how I look at it.
yeah. I hear that. Okay,
John's got a question.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, it's more of a comment than a question, but I support this request being moved up and approved because it just doesn't make any sense to spend increasingly large amounts of money on increasingly sophisticated equipment and then leave it outside. That makes no sense to me. So I would support this, moving this up.
Okay. How much, let me ask one more question, Noah. How much of this equipment actually does need to charge? Because I see tugs, dollies and carts.
So all of our recent aircraft tugs have been electric. They look a lot like the tugs that you would see at Boston. I think Preston's on, he can advise. I think we have 3 of those. We're looking to get more along those same lines. They're made by they're called electro tugs because they're electric.
Yeah, that's correct. We recently bought electric tug, I believe, for almost $250,000. That tug is currently being housed in an aircraft hangar that we're trying to shuffle around in different locations because we do want to keep it out of the weather. So that that takes up space in the common hangars where we would put tenants in annual tenants for storing their aircraft. So yeah, all in all, this is going to be a huge help keeping all this equipment out of the weather, out of the salt air, which is muchly needed.
We should take care of what we owe.
Yeah, I guess my only real concern, it just seems really expensive. I mean, the price per square foot, this is.
Yeah, I think it's for the electrical power going to those tugs. It's 3-phase, whatever volt. It's pretty high voltage, and I think we also wanted to do very minimal heat because we don't want any of those batteries and or our lav carts which have fluid in them to freeze, which would cause damage to the equipment.
So what kind, you said, so you're gonna do the radiant in the slab?
I don't think it's radiant, it's just basic cheapest heat I think we could put into the building, whether it was just, an electric heater up in the corner or something like that, just to keep everything above freezing.
Okay,
Well, I'd like to make a motion to move it above the line. Since
okay,
you didn't do that.
Second,
okay, on your motion, Howard,
Yes.
Christie,
Aye.
Don,
aye.
John's and I. I'm an aye. Okay, it's approved.
Thank you.
The next one, does anyone want to talk about the rescue and firefighting building rehab? NMA 26002. Can someone make a motion to not approve? If that's what it sounds like we're doing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Howard, can you be a second?
Second.
If you want to, I'm not trying. And on your motion, Christie,
Either that or we just group them as,
I think she wanted us to do
Okay,
them
then that's fine.
individually, so she
Yeah.
can type it out that way.
aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Jill's and I. That's not going to Hopper at this time. We already did the Tom Nevers bike path. We're on the townwide document management system. Sue, I have one question for you about that, if you can answer it, which is, did they use all that money last year because they've been getting this annually? And I would,
So I'm
I-
sorry,
I'm sorry, honey, go ahead.
I do not believe so. I can, if you want to skip over that, I can look at it.
Yeah. I find it hard to believe they've spent that much, because I think they're really, yeah, okay. And on the pond, which is now not up there, but Sue, you're sharing your screen,
Oh, sorry.
just so you know. No, it's okay, I'm just letting you know. And this is NRD 26002. This is,
I'm sorry, what did we say about townwide document?
we're gonna come back to it. I
Okay.
don't think they spent last
Okay.
year's money on it. Basically they
Yeah.
pay people wages for that, and
Full on.
so that was my hesitation this time when I ranked it. Like maybe give them a chance to catch up.
When is it gonna be done?
I don't know. I think it said in their, their goal is to be done the next couple of years, but
Do you know, Sue, how many more years it's gonna take?
I do not without looking at, the request.
Okay, so on the pond, Jeff's still on. I don't know if he wants to talk about that, or did you talk
I have
to him
not-
about it?
I did. I don't really have any comment on that one.
Okay,
To be honest, if there's one of those, I wouldn't support, it's probably this one.
okay. Jeff, do you want to make a comment? You can, and thanks for jumping on.
No, we discussed it at length with Christie and I think we understand not everything can go through on the first pass. I think we're fine with this one where it is.
I don't know, if you see the list, you're gonna start thinking everything did get approved, Jeff. You might feel like you missed out. Watch out.
With that said, you know, the department is very seriously looking at, water quality. So, I don't want this to sort of, set a precedent to never, you know, look at these as important.
Yeah.
You know, in the scheme of things, I think we can do without doing it this year, but I do wanna, cause we are gonna see a lot of these. It's been a long time, I think, since we've really made big efforts, and I think we've, the department, from what I understand, has been really pursuing water quality. So I just wanna, as we go forward year after year, that we do look at these, you know, with a critical thought of improving the island's water quality as far as, our ponds.
Right, because we tend to only think of that in terms of our drinking water. and
Yeah.
We don't kind of separate out.
And not as a,
I think historically, people
No.
just think our water's clean.
yeah.
So Jeff, you get to tell all of us how it's not. Great. It sounds like fun in your report.
It's always a nice time, so.
All right, moving, so let's take a vote on that.
I'll make a motion to not approve.
Okay,
I second that.
on your motion, Christie?
Aye.
Howard, Don,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Jill's and I. Jeff, sorry about that one. Maybe we can
Yeah.
work on that one next time.
I think we can provide some more detail for that program overall. That would be helpful for that.
Yeah, that's good.
Especially that one seems very isolated to that one pond, and maybe we get a bigger picture on all of them. I'm gonna jump over the airport housing for now. Sue, did you find out about the document management system?
I did. They do still have money left from the past couple of years, that you
How much?
close to 1.5 million.
Yeah, okay, so
Easy one, holy moly.
can you make a motion
I'll make a motion to not approve at this time.
And then second that.
on your motion?
Madam
Christie?
Chair,
Howard,
Oh, wait,
yeah,
so we have just authorized over $1 million, I think it was, for Plus. This 500,000 is actually to continue to get the rest of the departments done, which I think is town admin, finance, and one other one. So
Sewer was
If
doing
we-
it last year, if I recall.
Yeah,
right, and we've just authorized Plus right now at over $1 million for the work. This is
Uh-huh.
actually, this 500,000 is to complete the rest of the document management system project that we have been on for the last 5, 6, 7 years. So just to give you a little bit of a background on that.
Just because it's the last
Yeah.
tranche, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
But still, it sounds like we could wait until next year, right? Because you still have a lot of unused money? Am I wrong about that?
Thank you for asking that.
I don't think we have a lot left over after we just awarded a massive contract to Plus to Iron Mountain, but I'll defer to the committee. I just want to make sure that everybody knew what it was hopefully going to accomplish after town meeting. So I
And then
certainly, however you want to go is certainly up
But
to
it's
all of
not
you.
being
but
complete on the timeline that we're giving them the money. That's my issue with it. And that's why I
It's
think the
not the need
sidewalks
for the
didn't
money.
come through because they
Right.
keep asking for more money and then they're not doing the work. I just think it's taking.
So after
Are you
the-
gonna spend $1 million at Plus on this next year? I know you awarded it, but how long will that take to spend it? Is,
I don't know what the timeline is for that. I mean, I think that they're independent of each other, to be honest with you, but however, I have a great amount of respect for the capital program committee, so if you wanna push this out, I just wanna make sure everybody knew what it was for, that's all.
thank you, yeah, I know, I know people are working on it. Okay, Christy, can you make a motion since you're our,
Uh,
well, you don't have Howard, You wanna
no,
make a
no, no, I
motion?
mean,
somebody.
yeah,
I'm a no on this, I can just say that now, so, they have enough money, in my opinion.
this year.
If they were really desperate,
For
we're gonna
this
have
year.
another, for this
this
year, they have
year.
enough money. If they're really desperate, we have another town meeting in the fall, most likely, and they can come back for, that's sort of how I feel about it.
yeah, gotcha. I guess,
This is the other thing about our committee, we can talk about this, at another time, but like. One of my issues with some of the requests is they can't possibly spend all this money in the time. Like in the timeline that they're supposed to spend it in, and that's what I see kind of happening, and. Brian does an excellent job of staying on top of them.
I think it needs to be approved. I'm not sure, right?
yeah, I mean, I've always been a proponent of it. I don't think I've ever turned down funding for this document system, because I know they're really trying to get it going before any issues.
Yeah, they have $1
But,
million right now, they just awarded.
Was it 1 million or 1,500 in a balance?
He said they just awarded $1 million or plus to do theirs,
But what it's, Sue said the balance was,
1.5.
After the award?
No, I think it's Brian, you said it's 500,000 left after the $1 million to plus,
yeah.
because you have the authority for the 1.5.
Hmm.
Is that kind of how I'm
Um,
understanding it?
I think that may leave us 500, is that right, Sue? I know that we just awarded a little over 1 million, and with the amount of plus documents, that we'll work. I think we'll just, if the committee is not in favor of it, we'll have to slow down and get plus done and make sure that we have the funding to do that to finalize and complete that before we move forward, because I know they have a lot of documents and a lot of them
Yeah,
are
well,
really
just
large,
important
so
that stuff get
that's,
online.
Mhm.
I'm in favor of that for plus, so it sounds like they have enough money for
I'm
that.
content not approving this and watching just. It sounds like they've got their work to do and they've got funding for what's coming up. But
Yeah, I mean,
probably vote for it next time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brian, can I ask one more question about this one? Because
absolutely.
I've heard the town manager talk about this one. I mean, it sounded to me like, are they doing this, like, what kind of program do they use to do it? She was talking about people like being paid, an hourly wage a Nantucket hourly wage, I should say. To do this like manually, is what I thought I
And
heard.
it's all scanning, so it's a contract through the state bid list with Iron Mountain, and they have a team that they deploy, and it's all scanning the documents into the document management system, and then going
Mhm.
through and looking at the naming conventions and everything. So it's very, very labor intensive to do. And especially in Plus with all of the plan documents that are, they're not just 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper like in the majority of the departments, right? So, again, like I said, I have tremendous respect for Capital Committee, and if your preference is to wait, then that's what we'll do.
It just seems like $1 million and what you're paying people $25 an hour or something like that, plus
Yeah, the other thing is.
it's a lot of people.
This, I mean, Brian, I know it might have been before your time, but when did this all start? Or maybe it was during, I just.
No, it was during my time. I think it was in the last 6 or 7 years. It took a while to get off the ground because it's very
Yeah,
expensive to do, and we weren't allocating $500,000 tranches of free cash in the beginning. It was 250,000, and it took a lot. It took a while to do, but I know that we have tremendous respect for the committee. So if that's what they think is best in terms of all the capital requests, then that's how we'll proceed.
Okay,
I'm content,
Thank you.
yeah.
can we get a motion?
Make a motion not to approve.
Hey, a second
Second,
on your motion, Christie,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
John,
aye,
Jill's and I. Thank you, Brian, and thanks for enlightening us on that. Okay. So on the pond, we said that was a no.
Correct. For the first one.
Yes. Now we're gonna jump down to the South Apron noise barrier.
Yeah.
Did you have any?
I'm not there yet with the barrier. I just, I don't know. I don't live in the neighborhood, but,
Dawn, why don't you comment? Cause I mean, you had a public hearing on this whole thing.
Well. I mean, I think that I would rather see how it is with the expansion before building something like this, because I think it's going to be very impactful visually, and it's very
Yeah.
expensive.
yeah.
I just don't know that this $5 million raises above like storage at the police station that's needed for all that expensive equipment that hasn't been approved. I mean, yes, the airport funds it in a different way, but
Well, it's
I
kind of a new-
understand
a
why
new
it's
way of
not the
doing it.
berm. But I wasn't really thrilled about the berm either.
Art,
But yes, I don't live in the neighborhood, so
yeah,
I get that too.
Art, can I ask a question to, or Noah, or sorry, whoever's on still? Do you
Sure.
have any public input about this particular design?
So I'd say the public input, as we've proceeded through our commission meeting process has been strongly in favor of this project. The commission is, Arthur could speak for the commission, but they've directed me to, design it, bring it forward. I think, one of the items, I certainly respect Capcom's process and I want to support this project, but this is an item, if you were to not recommend it goes forward, it's something I would bring back immediately. I might ask for, so what sort of items you might look for that would make it more palatable in the future? Because I would just tend to bring it right back forward into the process. And that advice either now or later would be helpful.
I mean, Art, what about the neighbors?
Yeah, if I could just add on from a commission perspective, I would say to the committee, this is money I wish we weren't spending. We had the berm funded, but there was public outcry, funded by the federal government grant. I think it was 90%. There was a huge outcry, as I think you're all aware, related to that berm containing, we were going to sequester the PFAS soils within that, but regardless, there was essentially a commitment that was made by the commission to swap the berm with the wall. So I feel like to not build it would be not meeting the commitments and the expectations that were made to the neighborhood publicly and to those abutters. We have commissioned noise studies at our meeting on Tuesday night. We were just informed that there would be meaningful decibel reductions as a result of having this barrier. In terms of visibility, it's not going to be along the road. It's it's behind all the trees. It's out along the edge of the apron, so it would be visible from the airport side, from the apron side. It's not going there along the road. So my sense is it's not such a concern there. We preserved as much of the vegetation as we could between the neighbors. The wall let us get much narrower in terms of footprint. So I know you've got a lot of things, but I think that if this funding wasn't approved, there would also probably be some we would have to basically say that this wasn't recommended, and I think that that will result in additional concerns from the public over that. So it will be fun. I understand competing interests townwide, but this is coming solely from enterprise funds. And I agree, it's a lot of money, but it's also, I think, 1,000 feet long, something like that. It's a significant structure.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate the support.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, John.
if it's appropriate, I'd make a motion to approve this application and move it up.
The noise barrier? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. Do you have a second? Yeah. No, we don't have a
I'm
second in
not
the
ready,
room.
I'm not,
okay.
until maybe next year.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally, I mean, and I want to remind anyone who's listening that when you rank something at a medium, like, I really take that seriously, so. And I know that's like your first trial run sometimes too, to kind of gauge some reaction, but on this, I feel like it was a sensitive issue, the berm was, and maybe just feel like that could kind of calm down a little bit before we like get right back into it to borrow money and try something else
Yeah.
and shift gears. I think that makes the public nervous.
I,
And I think like a town meeting voter, I'm on the finance committee. I think I'm supposed to think like that. And so that's how I view it.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate the airport's approach to their neighbors. But at this point, it is lower priority for me than other things at the airport.
Great. Thanks, Christine.
And
Okay.
Madam Chair, just for the record, my reason for putting this forward is I think the neighbors deserve to be the agreement they thought they had to be followed through on. So, but that's why I
Right.
voted for it.
I see.
Yeah,
That's valid.
and if I can, John, I agree, with that, and as I said, I appreciate the airport's, approach to, you know, their neighbors, I'm just not there with this project yet.
Okay.
I just,
All right. Well, sometimes things need a little bit more education before we get comfortable with them, maybe. This still sounds like new to me. Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make a.
No
motion.
one's gonna get
I'll
mad at
make-
you later.
I'll make a motion not to approve. Yeah, I don't, and I'll second. I was waiting for someone
On your
else to-
motion, Chris,
Aye,
Howard,
aye.
Don,
Aye.
John?
But I will.
Nay.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. And Jill's and I agree with Don. I'm happy to look at it again next year.
Same.
Cobblestone improvements, I can tell you my thoughts. They have more borrowing authority and I, from what? Did they run out soon?
No.
Cause originally
But,
I thought that they had money left.
they do, Madam Chair, but that's not a borrowing authority that has been funded by free cash in the past.
Oh, sorry, that's right. That was a.
They have a balance, they have a balance. It's manpower.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't rate it that
Mhm.
high.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion not to approve.
Second.
Second,
On your motion, Christie?
Aye.
Howard? Don?
Aye.
John?
aye.
And Jill's and I.
I mean, I think we've supported that every year. That's.
I
it's
know,
not- it's not-
and it
it's not
doesn't
a-
get-
It's not,
It doesn't get done.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think we gotta have a little bit more. And they ranked it high.
yeah, and I don't think
So,
we'll
like-
see a hold up because we didn't approve that, to be honest, but I won't be.
I agree.
Okay.
Although I wonder about never mind. The climate action plan, we've seen this one before, Jeff. I don't know if you want to make a comment about it, but
We have.
we saw it last year.
We saw it last year, and I
Go ahead,
think we didn't approve it last year. Because I think that was the first year that we've been, that we reviewed it. I think there was still some questions about it. Jeff can clarify. I've got here 2022, which could be when they started looking at it, but really quickly, some of the bullet points here is this is something that's tailored for Nantucket. And it's really impact-based. it covers, many different facets of, of climate action for the town, like across the board. The state is watching basically what we do as far as having a plan of our own. And if we fail to do that, then we align with the state's plan standards, which most likely will not really clearly envelop what Nantucket is. It's gonna be very different. The standards might really not apply and might be off to some extent. The action plan also allows better possibility of grant funding. And this could shed a negative light on it, but, and Jeff can comment, but it was, it's one of those things that could see maybe an annual or every 2-year sort of funding.
Mhm.
Just for once the plan is in place for Nantucket, tailored for Nantucket, implementation might fall in under that. I'll let Jeff clarify, but we did deny it last year because it was we just weren't sure exactly what it was. But Jeff can go over better, maybe the facets that it covers, but it is energy, Lauren's involved. And sustainability. So going forward, it's gonna cover a lot of that.
Okay. Jeff, did you want to make a comment?
Sure, I'd be happy to just real quickly. Christie went over it pretty well. I think why we're really looking at this is, the town has tasked natural resources and kind of being the hub of the wheel for the town sustainability efforts and, kind of its climate action plan efforts. And I think the reason why we're really looking at this and put it forward last year and are really marked it as a high priority this year is in the last 12 months, the state has adopted kind of a two-pronged climate action plan, one that is their 2030 goal plan, and then the other one is for 2050. And in reviewing that, I don't really think Nantucket's going to have the best chance of meeting the state goals within those plans. And we're kind of anticipating those starting to become requirements in the next, 18 months or so. That if we can have a plan that's in and adopted, that's more tailored to what our impacts are and what our uses are, that instead of having to follow those state standards, we'll be able to have our own. We've taken some big strides in this areas, even just in resiliency, and looking at things like energy. I think we have a lot of opportunity to have a really impactful plan. That's for Nantucket and not for the Commonwealth.
There's just no way around it.
Right.
And then
Okay.
Can I make a comment too?
Yes.
One thing I wanted to clarify, which is one of the first things we went over is, I know there was a question about, how does like our coastal resiliency funding apply to the rest of this stuff, these projects that we're doing? To find that it's pretty separate. The funding that we allocate for coastal resiliency, as we know, offers them the flexibility to get things started for some design work, for studies, for maybe specialists or so. That is sort of, you try to think of them as a little unrelated. Some of that funding may be seed money for some of these projects, which is where you might see the overlap. But they are two different things. These are projects that the department is working on individually, and then the funding is what they can use year round in a timely manner so that they can keep the process moving.
I think what's kind of hard, and Jeff, maybe we can work on that for next year, is of course, coastal resiliency and sustainability and climate are just like big buzzwords that everyone kind of uses, and so to me, I'm kind of like, well, who's doing what, right? Again, I just think like a voter, Jeff, that's all I do. And who's doing what, and why, or does it look like we're duplicating, you know, tripling, quadrupling the work, and it sounds like maybe we are not. But there's gotta be a way we can explain that a little bit easier.
I feel like we're kicking the bucket down the lane a little bit here, but I think it's because we don't really have a good appreciation. It's not being presented as how important these things really are on an individual basis to make a compelling argument to a voter to say, yeah, you really need this item.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all in the presentation, I think, really, going forward.
Yeah,
I can help with this if that's acceptable.
Yeah, Vince?
okay, Vince, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks
So
for joining.
coast resiliency is my old job. There's somebody else doing that job now. And that was all about sea level rise, coastal flooding and erosion. And that is its own individual thing. Sustainability is an entirely different thing, an entirely different animal that looks
Yeah.
at everything from energy, carbon usage, carbon footprints, understanding how we can work to reduce that. Understanding and taking in exactly what you guys said last year when you had issues with this. So we went back to the drawing board, looked at it, and also decided to understand how we can include not only the climate action part, but also bring in sustainability. To understand how we can look at the energy of our community, our usage, how we can have better better infrastructure for green energy, everything from solar through battery storage, then try to understand how we can just improve quality of life here. The risk in this is if we don't have a climate action plan, we're going to be forced to use the state standards in the very near future. And that is going to be onerously heavy. They take a mean for how the state uses energy and apply it to every community the same way. Only communities that have their own climate action plan can then follow their own way to look at carbon reduction into the future. Because we ship everything here, that is the risk. So we need to understand what our community's targets are, not the state targets.
Let me ask you a question about that, Vince. So in that frame, I hear you, I think I'm hearing you say, you know, the state and you running this program want to push us more into electric. Yeah?
It's not that I wish to push us into electric.
Yeah, I don't mean it's your desire. It's just, I think you're saying it's inevitable.
It's not that it's inevitable, it's the state requirements. If you look at how they framed the building energy codes, they have.
Yeah,
this
oh,
data
no, I
paper.
know. Totally, I get that. I think what I'm asking is, don't you have a lot, I'm not saying that you have this to meet, to go back to the state with the way that they want you to format it. But don't you have a lot of this information? I feel like we all know a lot of this information.
Well, what we're missing is formalizing it. So at the moment, say if we want some charging stations, we try and find a piece of land and we try and put a public charging station there. That's done in an ad hoc way. That's just one example.
That's
So
very true.
This would change it. This would formalize it. This would get more support. This would get more state grants. This would be the catalyst to get Nantucket into a very different realm of energy efficiency. Lauren has done terrific work in this, but this is just the next step. This is the next phase.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that makes it a lot,
Palatable.
we just, I mean, we always say this, we are unique, and it sounds like if we don't have this plan, they're not gonna care. That we, you know, tell them, hey, you know, half the island's on propane. You know, good luck.
It's kind of it's planning instead of being like reactionary, just like you, the perfect example is those charging stations. Let's put them here because it's public here and here, but in the scheme of things, are we doing the right thing? Because what do we want to do things once, right? And
Yeah.
so, I mean,
Okay.
Makes sense.
Jane?
And the other thing is the department, we discussed for all of these ones, that the requests for this year, they either have been working on them, and they have bandwidth to do it with their staff, current staff that they have. So,
They do.
yeah,
Okay, I like
Yeah.
to hear that, guys. You know that.
Yeah,
My
I'll
biggest
just-
frustration is giving money to things that can't get
I
done.
know it, I know it.
I'll add to that really quickly for Christie, and I apologize for interrupting, but that's something that we don't put it forward if we don't feel like we can effectively get it done in time, and whether that's a grant application or a thing. That's why when sustainability and kind of this climate action plan first landed with us in 2022, Vince moved into this role at the end of 2022, and it took us a bit of time to get all those, Vince moved from resiliency to sustainability and have someone backfill in, that we didn't put it forward in that cycle because we weren't ready. We didn't have the bandwidth,
Okay.
and now we definitely do.
Yeah, I saw you put it at high, so I figured something was up, but
I just,
Okay,
yeah, just a
Chris.
comment, for Jeff or Vince, I'm willing to I'm willing to personally approve it. But, I'd like to make sure in the future we see, we see the fruits of this, that this will rear itself publicly, that it shows the advantage that, the steps we took now, if it is approved, or when it's approved, that the steps we take, shows an effective, tool, and that it is not just kind of something in the ether. If that makes sense.
and then lastly, could I ask, following that, is when do you report back on the report?
I think we would hope to have kind of this plan and framework done, obviously once it's approved within, 12 months of approval.
Okay,
And if I can add to Christie's comment really quickly,
sure.
and I appreciate the fact that, you guys have been really good to approve, our baseline data program for all of this, but the whole purpose of us collecting that information isn't just to, nerd out and collect information. It's to be able to deliver at the end and say, we had a baseline up front, we've taken action, this is how we've measured success or whether we need to alter it. Because for us at Natural Resources, that's the only way we can evaluate our projects. We're not building buildings or building houses, it's on environmental success. So all of those things are kind of part and parcel for us.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to how it shakes out for us. I mean, and I think we need to know because we are different. We do rely on propane. I feel like there's a huge push towards electric and I understand that, but we're having problems with that too, as we just saw last weekend. And, how does
Yeah.
that work for us? I actually really want to know the answers to those questions. And I don't know if you can get to the bottom of that in this report, but I think it'd be really helpful. It feels like we're going from multiple sources of energy and getting pigeonholed into one, and it doesn't feel like that's maybe the right thing for us when people
I can
can't just
answer
come
that.
out and fix everything.
Yes.
What's
I think
that?
that's,
I can answer that. So there is the state push to go to electric, but for an island and a place with limited connections, it does make sense to have multiple fuel sources. And this is something that came up in a very different way when we were looking at the stretch code prior to last town meeting, when there was a citizen warrant article. And there was a very strong feeling and a very strong push that we have to have more than one method. This is something we've heard loud and clear before, and this would help us to understand what that is, quantify it, and act appropriately so that we have backup and contingency and other ways of doing things, resilience, as it were.
Okay, so I got a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Do I have a second
Second.
on your motion, Christie?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
John? John's away.
He's a little away.
Jill's and I. It goes through. Thank you. Thanks, Vince, for jumping on, and Jeff, you too. That was helpful. Oh, John, you're back. We just made a motion and approved the climate action plan. Would you like to be on record as saying that you or an I or an A? You're muted.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and then second to last, because we gotta go back to the airport, is the pond shoreline construction supplemental funding.
I rated this real low,
Mhm.
alright? And I will,
It's pricey.
yeah, it's pricey. So. Just some bullet points, to note. They mentioned that this is a project that was constructed in an emergency situation, with no permits. It's a project that's been sort of kicked down the road a number of years. Maybe 7. It's a project that is, or it's a situation that's sort of, that DEP is keeping an eye on. And there is an urgency to sort of react, because not only from DEP, not to say that's the scary part, but the existing, we're talking where those cinder blocks are, the construction, the barriers. Those are failing and they're starting to sink in, so the effectiveness of those barriers is number one, not there. And then also, it's a project that DEP is really pushing on the department
So that was,
to complete. And then,
and do we think we can get money from them?
well, so this is a project that would hit some grants. The living, shoreline would be adaptable to future, coastal resiliency measures that are, slated for down the road.
Yeah.
Way down the road. And then, yeah, so that's some bullet points. There is in our RORIs. There is, the number, well, our number for this one is 5 million, 5.1. In our RORIs, there's a total cost of 15 million. I don't think that, and Jeff can elaborate, but there was, I don't think we're looking at that total number. It's really the 5 that they're looking at to, really correct this location.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can Jeff, you explain more about the physical state and the deterioration?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Christie summed it up pretty well. The Jersey barrier wall that was in place was put in after Winter Storm Riley when the road failed. And then a couple years later, it started to sink the first time, and was rebuilt in place, which triggered an enforcement action from the local conservation commission and Mass DEP and Mass Natural Heritage, where it's named Habitat. It didn't have any, didn't have any permits. And that's kind of what brought us today. Some of it's constructed on land owned by Mass Audubon as well. It's not within the town road layout. So we've been working on this. We were originally approved for design funding for fiscal 23 for some interim hardening. We pivoted on that scope a little bit instead of interim hardening to make it more of this adaptable structure for the larger project identified in the coastal resiliency plan. And in that resiliency plan, we've talked about raising that whole roadway in that system. That's probably not going to happen until sometime in the mid 2030s. It looks like at this point. But we are hoping to at least, clean up our trespass and our violation through here. I understand that cost is high. We've done some of the work, and some of the work for the inshore breakwater we're funding through grants already. This is for a design that's going in, is just to kind of run through it briefly, for sheet pile along the roadway, essentially, outside the shoulder, as a kind of a method of last resort. And then a more natural living shoreline component that fronts that connects the existing dune and beach profile on both sides of the Jersey barrier wall that's there, to allow those patterns to kind of maintain. We've been working hard to do that. The reef ball portion of the water that's funded through the grant is designed not only to enhance and help filter water through the ecosystem services of the oysters, but through the modeling we've done with the Woods Hole group, looks like it will attenuate about, 85 to 90% of the wave energy at all water conditions. So whether it's, high water or low water, depending upon the pond openings, to help lessen that impact of the hard structure that's there. So we're gonna have to replace that Jersey barrier wall sooner than later as it's slumping. And I think we wanted to put something that's adaptable for the long term, and also clean up our permitting issues and our trespass issues.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Howard?
The easy question first, what are your expectations with regard to qualifying for grants for this? And how much do you think we might get?
It's a good question. I wish I had a really good answer for that. I think it depends upon, what grants become available. We've seen some grants for coastal resiliency projects like this, that range in the 500,000 or greater. Sometimes they're smaller. We have a couple of difficulties in some of those larger grants where the resiliency grants, we tend to lose to communities, especially at the state level. We lose to communities like Boston, where they're servicing much larger number of people. The grant we have for the breakwater already for the reef balls there is a federal program. They tend to be a little bit more friendly. That grant, netted us a couple $100,000 to pay for those materials. One of the other things that's concerning about this project and grants as well, just in full disclosure, is it's actively in a non-compliant state permitting wise, which sometimes doesn't help us when we're applying for grants to those same agencies. It can be tricky. We've
Jeff,
applied
would
for
you
a couple
say-
grants on. Yes, sir.
Jeff, would you say the non-compliance makes this an urgent need then? To be able to,
Well, he ranked it high.
I ranked it high kind of for that purpose, because it's there. I understand, trust me, this is not the project that I wanted to put in at all for this ever, because it's, I hate coming to groups to say, hey, we have an issue where we are compliant and we got to
Yeah.
fix something that was done. We kind of got tasked with fixing a problem that we kind of self-created, and are trying our best to do that. I know the number's high. When we originally looked at this project, even 3 years ago and roughed out, we've seen the costs come up by almost double, just, between sheet steel and some of the other materials. Christy and I talked a lot about today. It just gets more and more expensive.
does this non-compliance prejudice our ability to apply and qualify for other grants then? Would you say that?
It's not overly helpful. It hasn't seemed to impact us in other cases at a federal level. The federal doesn't seem to do it. Grants through Mass DEP, we definitely are, when we had, pre-permitting meetings on this, it always comes up that it's a site that's not compliance. And we'll try our hardest to get any grant that we can or any grant that we apply for. I just don't want to give anyone a false expectation that despite this being a great project with collaborators in the nonprofit world and support from the local homeowners association, that it doesn't have some, doesn't have some warts too,
Yeah. What do you say?
And I'll also say really quickly too is, and this is not a political statement by any means, but anytime we've always had transitions in leadership at a federal level, whether it's this year, 4 years ago, 4 years before that, 4 years ago before that. The grant climate for things like this always gets a little dynamic because you're not sure how that's going to shake out. But again, our indications from some of the groups like, National Marine Restoration Programs and things like that seem like there's going to be good grant opportunities coming. But sometimes federal priorities change as well.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jeff. Thanks for your extra time today too. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And thanks, Christy, for going and meeting with them.
No,
And
it was, I mean, it was,
Yeah, what would we have done if you hadn't done
it's
that?
helpful.
no, I knew
Well,
when you
no, I
brought it
mean,
up last week,
listen,
I was,
when
you
you-
were like, oh, I better talk to
We
her. I was like,
really
oh, yeah,
needed you
you.
to do
Well,
that.
Yeah, we
because
did.
I needed clarification also,
Yeah,
you know,
so thank you for doing that.
yeah, and I think that,
Super helpful. Does anyone wanna, do you wanna talk about this more, or anybody wanna go to a motion, or? And I'm trying to be considerate of the time. We got one more to do after this, and
Yeah,
I've got a finance committee meeting
yeah,
going on.
right. I'm happy to move it up if the committee feels that, you know, the arguments are in favor, you know, obviously, it's a lot of money, but as Jeff said, we have to clean it up. We certainly don't wanna we don't wanna be that person that, and when I say person, I mean the town, that is not doing what the state really is pushing us to do.
Right.
Cause then it just creates further oversight. So I think this would be important to allow the department to finish this cleanup. And get it to the point where they feel it's appropriate.
And you know what else I would add to that? We're kind of not compliant in other places with the DEEP.
Yeah,
And their graciousness is kind of important to us
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we would prefer them not to come down on us.
Yeah, you mean like water permits and things like that?
Well, like,
so I'll make a motion to move it in.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
On your motion, Christie,
Aye.
Howard, Dawn,
Um,
John,
I,
and I'm an I. Thanks, Jeff. That was a good point, Howard. Really good.
yeah.
Thank you
Okay,
guys. Thank you
and
for the extra time as well.
You bet.
Thanks, you
And
guys.
then we'll bring it back. I think this is the last one unless I'm missing one, Sue. Am I missing anything other than going back to the airport employee housing phase 2? Does anyone have any, have we commented on this one to death? Or does anyone have anything that they want to add?
I don't know what else there is to say. We've had so much information. You know, from the airport, from our committee. From town, from finance and.
Yeah.
It's it's a big one. It's been something we've discussed for a few years significantly.
Yeah. I can say from the finance committee standpoint
Yeah.
that if we moved it forward, the finance committee could still take a look at it. I think they
course,
probably
still,
would.
yeah.
There's still other hurdles.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be super honest and I appreciate all the time y'all have given. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, Art in particular, it's been amazing. I appreciate you coming down and, refining the numbers. I have several issues with it. One is I think given the infrastructure and the amount of money we spent on that, I feel like all of a sudden it got smaller. And I really did think it was a bigger project and it might not be what you need now and it might be what you need in the future. So I'm not saying it's a bad investment. But I have to ask myself, is this the highest and best use of this land? And I still doubt that. So I have a question there. I think doing the dorm first was a good move. But then you come back and you say, well, we're actually gonna leave this property. We're gonna go work on another property, but we might come back to this property. You don't. And that just raises more questions for me, that there isn't really a big long-term plan. And I know you can't plan for everything in the future. I know that. But it seems like this is a short-term right now plan. So that, I respect what you're doing, but I like to see more vision with this kind of money. And also on the money front, you came down, great. It's still quite a bit more per bedroom than what we're spending or recommending to spend on a town employee. And I feel like we're saying that you all get a privilege that a town employee doesn't when we break down the numbers like that. And that bothers me. I don't want to drive by nobody and think, wow, we spent all that money on them and then we're struggling over in the other areas where we're who are trying to spend money. They're even buying houses that they're redoing if they can. I mean, the town is really struggling on housing. It's been a housing crisis for a while, and I appreciate that you want to try to meet your needs. But I'm still uncomfortable with the price, especially as it's gonna go on the same warrant as the town employee housing money. So I'm uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
And lastly, I mean, I've got like 4 other comments to make, but the last one is, I personally, and you can do it or not, this is just me, but I personally would love to see some result of a meeting with town council about this issue about who can live on that land. And not just a letter from your lawyer, because I think you have a different lawyer, but I would like to see town council, because that's who would need to be coordinated with. That's who would have to actually look at this and actually evaluate whether or not that could happen. That is not the primary reason that I'm voting against this, but that is something I would recommend that you do. And I would personally feel more comfortable if that meeting happened. Maybe they come back and say, this is impossible. You bring this forward, there's a fall town meeting, it looks like, and you could bring this forward in the spring, and we could look at it, and you could say, hey, it's impossible, we can't do it, and I'd be more comfortable there. I'm not comfortable today on this warrant, and that's where I am.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Yep.
I'm comforted by, Brian's comment about the approach to tying town employees into airport land. If there is a way, I don't think the discussion ends because we approve this. I think that there could still be a discussion. And in 3, 7, 11 years, the result is there will be housing on that property, and it will benefit the airport and the town in the end. I've come to grips with this, with the disparity of the airport housing compared to the town.
Yep.
For the sake of the function of the airport in the department, the enterprise fund's effort to put in their own housing. I think it's very important right now. I think a lot of these questions we're asking, we don't have answers. If we don't have the exact answers, we're not gonna get them anytime soon. So how long are those gray areas gonna hold us up? I'm at the point where I think these can be revisited. There's still the land there. If the airport feels like maybe there's a way, or finance director thinks, let me work with them, but I have no idea how that's gonna work. And I have a feeling in a year, 2 years, I'm still gonna have no idea how it's gonna work to have town employees fully allowed to live on that property.
I'm not
With that-
suggesting.
No, I know, I'm just, from my point of view, I don't think there's an easy answer to it.
I don't-
Clearly, there's not an easy answer to
I
it.
don't think there's not an answer to it, though.
Possibly.
You know what I mean? I think,
Po-
but that's
possibly.
not irrelevant to
Yeah,
this,
po-
to this particular.
Howard, you
act.
might be right. There probably
Yeah.
is an answer out there. The thing is,
It's not
we've gotta
relative to
be,
this, but
Yeah.
no one's saying that that's.
yeah,
fair.
no, I know it. Anyway,
And no
That's-
one's saying
that's-
that it's not desperately needed housing.
yeah, no, I know it.
I don't have enough information really to appreciate it, and so it seems
Yeah.
to me it's ill-conceived. Sorry, Noah and Art, no disrespect there at all, but I don't get it. I don't get the cost of it.
Thank you. John, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, in the interest of time, I'll just say this. I agree 100% with everything that you said, so I'm not going to restate that. What I would say to Mr. Casparo and Mr. Carberg is, I would love to see this housing built, and I would love to see more first responder housing built. If we bring this back next year, and if you can work on it, and I'd be happy to be one of a group that try to look at this from the legal aspect and other ways to do it. But I can't bring myself to vote for it the way it is. But you know, I hope we can bring it back in a form that, you know, we all.
Can I?
Can I just make a comment?
More money next year.
Just make a
Wait,
comment?
stop. Can I just comment on that? Again, if you heard me, I said we have a fall town meeting. There is another chance to come back then, which is sooner than later. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, any savings that we wanna make or cuts in what they're proposing, just add it back on now that we wait. Just add it on.
Dawn,
I agree with that.
okay, well then, under that
I think
scenario,
that
you should like
they're-
approve
that
everything on.
The administration and the airport commission are going to do everything they can to keep this cost down, but I still think we should authorize it so that they can get going.
This is also it's high priority for the airport, right?
Housing is the most difficult.
They put it down medium, actually, if you look at it, they actually said medium, which is another reason.
Clearly, but it's a high priority. I mean,
Okay, does someone want to make a motion? Anybody in the mood to make a motion? I'll think about this.
I mean,
I'll make a motion to approve it, but I think it's gonna fail, so.
Okay,
and I'll
Just
second
leave
it.
it up.
Just,
okay, on your motion, Dawn,
Aye.
Chrissy,
I,
Howard,
No.
John,
Nay.
Jill's an A. I'm sorry Pete's not here and we have a vacancy and that also didn't help you this time around. But I want to very much encourage this being considered sooner than later. And I would love to know from our town council, and I have reason to believe that we could find the answer to that, so. But again, that isn't the top priority about why we can't do it. Or why I don't think we should do it this second, because I do think you should do it. Okay, that's it, guys. We've been through all of them. I think. Sue, am I missing anything? Okay,
are we making any comment about the big ones? Or is that-
Howard is going to write notes and
Okay.
we'll go back, and if you all look at those, and if you wanna,
We should look, you know, look at the notes. and-
I will. I only read
Yeah.
the airport, what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'll check it out.
So you also.
yeah, and I think that
only wrote
note.
what I thought. I didn't write what you might think.
No, I know. I think
It-
everybody should weigh in and that should be, I think we should say
It's
we have other committee members who don't
It's
agree.
a committee.
Yeah.
Document. It's not a personal document.
Yeah.
So,
No, I thought that they were good comments so far. but
Yeah,
maybe we
the
can
comments gathered from
add
the
some
discussion.
stuff.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
so if you have revisions to it, I think you can email Sue and
Send
me
everything to Sue and then we'll
And-
get it.
and me, and then we'll like try to incorporate that. And then I would say the date of our next meeting now is going to be not until January 14th, which is a Tuesday, not a Thursday, so that's a little
So
different.
this is coming Tuesday.
No,
January
Oh,
14th.
January 14th.
So our plan is to, I think these comments are pretty close, or, you know, and Sue's got to put in the numbers to the report. It's got to get formatted. We're gonna work on it a little bit. Howard and I are on the report writing committee that no one raised their hands to do. And refine it, get it back to you so we can discuss it the 14th and hopefully approve it. And if we are not ready to approve it that day, we need to approve it by the 16th because it's going in the select board packet on the 17th. So hopefully we'll get it to you in time to spend a little time to read it if you want to.
Yeah.
But right now you can comment on the remarks. I really think the report is not gonna be,
You know, reading the report. There's not, you know, what we're gonna do the report, is skinny it down. Oh, good from last year.
yeah, we were gonna try and make it a
And
little
so it's
bit
really
quicker.
not, it's really the scoring and
Yeah.
the results.
Yeah,
More, that's what it should be focused on, not a discussion about the philosophy of Capcom.
Okay, so our next meeting is not until January 14th. That is a Tuesday. I think that'll be at 3. And Sue, am I missing anything?
We're good.
Forgive me for being I'm gonna say this phrase, I'm a virgin chair. So this hasn't been so easy for me, guys. I'm used to around just like.
No, I mean, listen, I appreciate, Jill, you giving us the opportunity to fully discuss these. You know, which is important, you know, for the department heads and, yeah, I mean, it's important that and I think, obviously, I'm on coastal resiliency. It's easy for me to say, listen, I want to ask them about these and not just sort of sidewall it based on the inputting. But, you know, whenever anything falls below that line, we all have an opportunity to get behind it.
Mhm.
You know, so it's just, I, appreciate that opportunity.
I do too. I really enjoyed the discussion this year. I learned a lot and,
It's been good.
you know, it's still
Yeah.
hard, but it doesn't mean the rankings aren't hard and fast. They just kind of indicate, you know, where we are at that point in time and, so I think we all learn a lot more every year. So it's good to have that continuity.
Very,
John?
very good job. Very good job, Madam Chair. Excellent. Thank you.
You all, thanks for your hard work and thanks for running traps on the things that we all kind of have deficiencies. I really appreciate that. And especially today on the natural resources. I'm thankful.
Yeah,
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
so, I can make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, is there a second? Kristen, your motion?
Aye.
Howard, Dawn?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jill, I'm an aye. Sue, as always, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we will see you all next month.